Hey there, welcome back. I'm so glad you could join me. It's been a crazy day out there, huh? Well, the great thing about art, it's the one thing you can do where you're in control of it, right? So let's not worry right now. Let's take a look at what we're doing. Mmm, smells like a rose. Well, I bet you're looking at this thing, right? And you're thinking, I can't do that. I'm not even an artist. Well, hold on. Let's talk about that. So, I got two words for you for today's lesson. One of them, resilience. What's resilience? Resilience is your ability to fall down, get back up, and be as strong or stronger than when you had fallen. Just like a rubber band, when it stretches, you snap it back, right back like it was before, right? That's called resilience. Now, the other word we're going to go over today is affirmation. Now, affirmation is basically the emotional support or encouragement that you get from other people, like friends, your job, your school, your teachers. So all of these outside interactions give you affirmations. They make you feel positive about yourself. Well, the great thing about art is that it gives you self-affirmation. It lets you take control of how you feel. You get to write that dialogue inside your head and say, hey, actually things might be a little crazy out there, but I'm in control of, a lot of the things that I can do. So let's get back to it. Okie doke. Well, so first thing first, I like to look at the composition. Now what's composition? Basically just how I'm laying it out on the page, where I want to put the roses, where I want to put the leaves. So here we have a nice diagonal composition going on. You'll notice that I'm going from here to here, and then I'm placing two roses in between that point. Now, down here, we just have crayons, piece of paper, all things you can get all the time, even from your grocery store. We got basically what we'll use for our flower, and then what we'll use for the leaves. You can look at it like this. It's like gonna be a pink flower, and these are the different shades of it, going from pink to red to a purple. And then the green, light green, green to blue. All right, let's just go ahead and jump right into this, shall we? Okay, so now that we're all ready to go, we're feeling stoked, we know we can do this, we're gonna draw two circles. These two circles are just basically gonna be where you want your flowers to go. Now, they don't have to go in any set spot. I'm gonna use my light pink, and I'm gonna go ahead and just sort of indicate those. All right, well that was easy. Done. Just kidding. So now, the way I like to break down a rose, because it's got all these petals that kind of overlap each other and it gets confusing even for an artist, is to kind of break it down into a simple line drawing first. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna start with a spiral right in the center. So here we go. Shaboom. And it doesn't need to be perfect or anything, right? Now, let's do another one. I think I'll go the other way with this guy. So there we go. We got two spirals, different directions. Now, don't have to be perfect. Next petal, I'm gonna start using kind of like a J shape or a candy cane that tucks back in on itself. So let me show you what I mean. And this can really come out from anywhere on this shape. I'm gonna come out like a candy cane, doop, 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 and then I'm gonna loop back in and kind of close it, right? Once you see that happen, you can kind of even tuck that petal in. What we're going to do is we're going to start kind of separating these into separate petals. So let me do another one of those candy canes. So let's say right here. I'll sort of boom, and then come out like that. There we go. Let's go ahead and do the candy canes over on this one while we're at it. Like to work both roses nice and even. Now notice that I'm going to think about it way less with that one. They're way more natural, right? I'm kind of showing you the rigid shape, but really, I'm very loose with it because roses, they're all unfolding, they're all different, just like us. So let's go for the bigger petals at the edge. What I start doing is basically the same kind of candy cane shape that tucks in, but just bigger. I kind of sometimes think it looks sort of like ears. So look at that, and then I'll tuck back in. Now I'll come back out, and I'll tuck back in. Now notice, I am using the circle as a guide, but not being too strict with it. You could throw a couple extra petals sticking out the edges there. Really, it's your flower, and there's no too many petals. Alright, let's do the next one. So here we go. I'm just kind of coming out. I'm gonna do this funky shape. It's like a crazy shape ear, right? That's sort of a great way to look at it. And I'm just gonna kind of reproduce that shape over and over again, moving around, and each time overlapping the petal from before. So there we go. We have the drawing section done, the outline of our 2 roses. Let's go ahead and grab up our light green crayon. What we're gonna do right now is compose our leaves. So remember, we're gonna go in this nice diagonal fashion here. So what I'll do is, with a leaf, I think of it sort of like a teardrop in a way, but with a little bit more life to it, so not symmetrical, so to speak. So look at that. You don't want to overthink them too much. You can let them overlap each other. Some could be bigger, some could be smaller. You know, sometimes I'll like to take a little gap and then sort of let them layer, but don't think that you have to look at my leaves that I'm doing and do them all leaf for leaf identical, right? If you want your leaves to kind of pop out in different spots, that is completely okay. The other thing is, it doesn't have to be even on both sides. If you want to do just a little bit of leaves on one side and you want to really fill out the other side, well, that's what art is for, right? Whatever you feel you need to do. So I think that's enough there. What we have is a drawing that has balance, right? It's sort of symmetrical, but not really. It's got this sort of flow to it that keeps the eye moving around. Okay, so let's go ahead and color it in. Now, the process is going to be simple. What we want to remember is that the edges of the petal, we want to be white. So, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start filling this shape, the little spiral from the beginning, with the pink. And I'm going to be careful to just not get too near the edges. Now, here's the thing. Once I do get to that point, I can tuck into this edge. Think of it as that other side of the spiral. So now what you see when you look is sort of this spiraling white line. Now, if yours doesn't come out exactly like that, no worries, because I guarantee you it's still going to look just like a flower. I'm going to go to the next one. And I'm going to go right up against the edge of the last petal I did. And then I'm going to stop with the pink as I move towards the edge of the next petal that I'm working on. I'm going to go ahead and do this on each petal right now. And you can press as hard as you want with your crayon. The harder you press, the more vibrant it will be. The paper can take it, so don't worry about that. So now I'm really filling it out. I'm going to each petal, and I'm again starting at the edge, that white edge we're leaving from the last time, and then I'm moving out towards the edge of the petal I'm working on. Now, I'm leaving just a little bit at the edge, but notice that it's not perfect. Like, you know, it's a little bit jaggedy and bumpy. Just think about those roses growing in the garden. They are all sort of folding and unfolding all the time, and they're letting all their little petals overlap over each other. So really, the idea is you don't want it to look too perfect, as odd as that seems, right? Here's the other thing. Practice makes perfect. You know what? When I started drawing, I didn't know how to draw that well. You know, I had the natural inclination to want to draw. Of course, I was looking at all these things and just like, oh man, I can't wait till I can, you know, try to draw this Nintendo game character or this cartoon character, right? And there were all these just benchmarks that I couldn't do as a kid, right? I couldn't even do it as a teenager, some of these things. But you know what I did as a kid and a teenager? All I did was worked on trying to be an artist. And that is still all I do to this very day. I can't tell you that I'm going to be the same artist that I am now in 10 years. Who knows? I hope that, you know, I've grown and I know a lot more things art-wise. But the most important thing is that a lot of people will talk about natural talent, right? They'll say, oh, well, you know, Timmy, he's just gifted, right? He's just gifted. His dad's an artist too, so just runs in the family, you know, I could never do that. Well, true, but let's think about it. if something runs in the family, that means that they're probably going to be more encouraged to pursue that activity, A. And, B, natural talent really only gets you so far. It's the passion. There's so many people that have talent for so many things. There's a lot of doctors out there, maybe even one of your teachers. They have their job, but then they're also a professional singer on the side, right? So there's several things that we can be. We don't just have to be one thing or the other. Let's go ahead. Now that we've got these nice flowers colored in with the pink, we have our nice edges of the petals. We're starting to really see the shape here. Let's grab our red. This is going to be a nice easy step. What we're going to do is we're going to redo everything we just did, the idea of moving from the center of the flower out towards the edge of the petal, but we're just going to do it with this deep red. The idea is that we want it to feel like, it's tucking in on itself, that you could look down into this rose and the petals are sort of unfolding outwards at you, right? So we're thinking kind of 3D. Now notice, as I color it, I'm not necessarily going all the way to the edge of my pink. It's going this red, that pink, and then the white, right? So we're sort of doing this graduation of colors. And I'm not being all too careful, right? If you feel like you want to spend your time on this and make it really, really perfect, please, by all means, feel free to pause the video. That's the great thing about this, is that I will be here for you when you push that play button again. So I ain't going nowhere. I will be here. And the great thing is that this whole time, that you can't go to work, that you can't go to school, I'll be here to give you art lessons every day. Every day during the week, you can look forward to coming and doing a little art class with me. Now, I know we all have busy schedules. Well, not as busy now, just in different ways, but hectic schedules, things get in the way of things, but heck, great thing is that all of these lessons are about 15-20 minutes, and you could maybe set aside yourself an hour and do 2 or 3 of them all at once, and then you got a whole range of drawings. And here's the thing, a lot of times we'll get really obsessed and focused with one thing, especially if we're having trouble with it. We're gonna be like, oh man, I can't do it. And maybe you might want to just try to keep doing it, but that restart, that mental restart, will be really nice for you actually. So maybe doing a couple lessons back to back, and then, right afterward the next day, going and trying the flower again, say, you're probably you're gonna knock it out of the park. You will be smelling roses, let me tell you what. Okay, last but not least, we're gonna go for the deepest shadow in the flower. This is gonna be reserved mostly for the spiral, for the center, but even here, I'm gonna still make sure that I kind of graduate out of it so that I don't completely cover all my nice red and pink, but I still am coloring over it. The idea is that the flower is going to be the darkest in the center. Now, basically, next to the edge of each of these petals, I'll just put a little bit of purple, enough to say, hey, there's a little bit of a shadow that's being cast from the other petals that it's surrounded by. Not much. You don't need a much. Little goes a long way. Look at that. We already have the nice feeling of a flower with depth right here. So let's go ahead and do this other one again, starting in the spiral. And I really am not trying to be too perfect or careful. That's the great thing about art, is there's all these different styles too. You can make yours really scribbly, you can make yours like super neat, like a robot drew it. And hey, whichever way, it's awesome. It's yours, it's unique. Especially with something like this, a rose, which is already so unique, right? Every rose is beautiful, right? And they know that. They're just like born knowing, hey, I'm pretty awesome to look at, right? We should all feel like that all the time. There we go. So now we each might have different amounts of shadow that we want to add to it. No right or wrong amount. Before we go and do the leaves, I'm going to give one last outline of the petal edges. This is where you can really decide how you want them shaped. I even like to give it a little bit more of a natural edge. I'll let the crayon go a little bit jittery or jagged, you know, and then it makes it feel a little bit more like the natural edge of a petal rather than something I planned out, or, you know, like the shape we were using, an ear. So there we go. We got our flowers popping out nice. And don't worry, after this lesson, if you feel like you need to clean up any lines or accentuate anything, go ahead and take your time and give it that extra detail. So those are done. We are done with the flowers. Look at how easy those were. We did 2 of them and that fast. Wow, I love that. Let's go ahead and pick up that light green. Okay, so with this, we're just gonna go ahead, start coloring in leaves. Oh, we lost a crayon. Crayon down. It's okay, it's okay. We weren't gonna use that one anymore. Goodbye, pink. So now, when I'm coloring this, I'm pressing pretty firm. Remember, the more firm you press, the more vibrant your color will be. And you'll notice also that my green crayon is not wearing any clothes. That's because it's an artist crayon. Once you really get cooking with here, if you do 2-3 videos with me, you're gonna want to have a sharpener by your side, and you know, at some point your crayon's gonna start looking less than a GQ crayon. So I'm not gonna worry about that too much. That's actually part of the artistic process, is to sort of let your tools get a little crazy, right? You don't want to get stuck on things like, I need this tool or that tool to do that, because look at it this way. Before 2 days ago, I was not drawing with crayons. Like I said, I haven't painted with crayons, drawn with crayons rather. Sorry, I do so much painting that, yeah, those were left back in kindergarten for me. So I'm actually really amazed with what just a pack of, you know, simple Crayola crayons can do. So I'm here just amazing myself even. Now, no real right-wrong way to fill these. I'm just kind of getting them all filled away. And then what we'll be doing after this is we'll have 2 more steps. One will be putting the stem in the center and a little bit of shadow. Then the last will be that maximum shadow where we really push the drawing to the final step. All right. How we all doing there? We hanging in? Yeah, you're doing awesome. You know what? I cannot wait to see some of the results here. Now, I already had some results rolling in, and you know, I just want to say to those that sent me pictures of that tree that we did in the last lesson, wow. Oh my goodness. There was one with apples on it. It was so cool. And wow, each one of them looks so 3D, and you know what? They really got clever. Here's the thing that I thought was cool too about the submitted, you know, let's call it assignment, is that they were using markers too, and they used the markers to do some of the things like putting outlines on it. So what's that to me? Hey, that's thinking creatively, that's thinking individually. Last thing I want you to do is sit here and become me, or feel like, oh my gosh, I had to follow everything he's doing, you know, line for line. Not at all the case, not at all. So look at that. We are done with that light green. Basically, we're just moving through our crayons. All we got left is this regular green and then that blue. Here's the trick. What I like to do is kind of pull my stem out of the center. Not all the way to the edge, but just kind of find that middle line. And then what I'll do is I'll sort of color some of this green, kind of going from the spot of the leaf that tucks under the flower, and then I'll sort of go along the edges and then down the middle. So we see that it's almost like a McDonald's arch there. And then I'll go ahead and at the end, I'll give it a little outline. And with your leaves, you do not have to be too careful with the outline. If anything, you know, I really just let the crayon loose and I let the leaf become a little bit jagged as I do it. And the idea too with these shadows is that no one leaf will look the same after you're done, right? So it doesn't mean that every single leaf has to have the exact same shadow pattern. Some leaves, say, if they're far away from another leaf, or if they're not directly under the flower, they might not even get too much shadow at all. Now, these ones right here that are tucked in between the flowers, I'm going to give them a little shadow coming out. so that it feels like it's sort of tucked underneath these flowers. You'll start to feel as you do this on your own page that the flowers are going to be a little bit more 3D with each of these steps. Patience is key. Patience is key. In a time like this, in a time like any time, patience is what gets us through challenges. So, even though we got to take a little bit with each of these and give the attention all the leaves deserve, it's really not that long in the long run. Given that nice outline. Like I like to say, this is not the type of art that is fridge bound. This is straight up frame bound. Think of how happy someone would be right now. Are you kind of feeling that sadness that, is going around? Everybody's a little bit unsure, maybe a little bit tense. Maybe you are too. A flower. They would love a flower, because even right now, I don't know how many people can go out and even pick a flower. So what's the next best thing? A flower that you made. So maybe you could think about practicing this over and over again and giving it as a gift to as many people as you think need a flower. Have you ever heard of mail? No, not email. I'm talking mail. Well, that's what we all used to use to talk to each other. So when you needed to ask someone a question like, hey, would you like to have some tea with me? You'd send them a letter. And then in about a month, they'd get their letter, and then they'd read, oh, would you like to have some tea with me? And they'd say, sure, that sounds fine. What time would you like to have tea? And they'd send that back, and a month later, they'd be like, well, 3 o'clock in 2 months sounds good. And of course, I'd like you to RSVP so that I'm not pouring hot tea and you're not going to be there. And so, basically, just like that, on and on. Boom. And like that, before you know it, you're done. So, let's go ahead and put that green crayon back. We just lost a crayon. Crayon down. It's okay, because that crayon was done anyways. So, moving on to our blue. Here we go. Now, for this, I'm going to be doing the deepest shadows in the leaves. Now, look how cool it is. It doesn't come out as blue. It comes out as like a dark green, right? So what I'm going to do is, this is the last step of the drawing. I'm just going to go around, and I'm just going to get that last little bit of shadow, just as enough, in comparison to the purple that we put into the flower earlier. I'm not gonna cover too much with it, because a little goes a long way with something like that. You could even put, a little bit on an edge of a leaf here or there, just to give it a little bit of a shadow feel. So anyways, they finally showed up for tea. It was delicious. It was amazing. They had crumpets as well. But point is that maybe you should mail your friends a nice picture, especially a picture of these flowers that we're just about to finish. And it won't get there in a month now. We're in the future. Even our mail system goes fast now, but email's fine too. You can always just take a picture and send it over email, but they're not going to feel as special. They're really not. So, here we go. The last little bits, and it is really up to you to decide when you think your drawing is done. I'm putting those last little edges here and there, not overthinking it too much, and boom, before you know it, we've reached the end of our journey. For today, of course. So, that being said, I'm going to be here every day, Monday through Friday. Whether you're a student at home, craving something to do, missing your friends, looking for that self-affirmation, or you're just stuck at home because, hey, you're not getting a paycheck and you're just, what's going on with the world? This is what's going on with the world. You're going to enrich yourself. Take this time to do that thing that you never did, right? Whatever that is. But until then, I'll see you next time.